Think we are live. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hello, everyone. Thanks a lot for joining in. This is our latest episode of leadership talks that we do. So, today we have the esteemed guest, Mr. Ranaq Sen. Ranaq is currently heading the people's function at WorkIndia. He's the CHRO of WorkIndia. Ranaq basically comes from the city of Joy, Kolkata. He hails from that city and he started his career in finance. After having worked for like 2, 3 years in finance, he decided to move on to the next part of his journey, which was basically entrepreneurship. So he started multiple companies. He's been, able to found and run multiple companies. And then eventually he decided to get into HR function, HR as a domain. So there he's worked with multiple startups. He's headed people's function at multiple startup companies and been successful in scaling these organizations. So currently Ranak is heading the people's function at Work India, and he's an expert in terms of HR tech, using data to basically analyze the HR function, which is very interesting. We would want to, understand from Ranak, like what are the latest things in HR tech these days, and yeah. So these are the things that we would like to touch upon today. So I would open the stage for Ranak to basically talk about his journey, how has been his transitions, from being a finance guy to an entrepreneur and then leading HR function at these organizations. So how has been his journey, and what were his motivations basically during these different stages of his life? So yeah, Ranak, please.
Cool. Thank you, Vivek, and hi everyone. Thanks for the warm introduction. Um, those were very kind words. Honestly, I've just been following what I love to do, and I had the courage to sort of take action on what I felt I love to do, and that's what got me here. So, talking about my journey, I come from a family of chartered accountants, so I grew up just that's all I knew, right? The world of finance is what I knew.
Mhm.
And at the age of 17, 18, when the world asked me that you have to choose what you want to do for the rest of your life, that's all I knew. So I thought,
Mhm.
why don't I do that? Even though I came from a science and computer science background in school, I jumped into
Right.
the world CA. Again, post my CA, I worked for some multiple very, very large organizations for 4 or 5 years, but then
Right.
realized sort of at an inflection point in my life, 4 or 5 years into this, that not what I want to do for the rest of my life. Um,
Mhm. Correct.
and luckily, I was part of the startup ecosystem. I was in Bangalore, and these were the early days of Flipkarts and all of that. I used to go to those meetups,
Right.
and I found a problem in hiring. I knew nothing of hiring. I knew nothing of the world of HR. I knew nothing of the world of TA. But I saw that I had a personal problem, and my best friend also had that problem.
Mhm.
And then we just
Mhm.
basically did, and we thought, we are young. This is the time for us to take a chance, because if we don't do this now, we're going to regret this for the rest of our lives. Even if it fails, it was fine. So we
Okay.
took our very cushy jobs. We were both doing really well, and just went head on into solving this problem in recruiting, which is a part of HR. Yeah, I mean, we
Correct.
did
Correct.
that for a good couple of years. Then I'm very passionate about food. I parallelly also started a food tech startup. I did
Mhm.
QSRs before the word QSR itself was there. But
Correct.
yeah, I mean, did that for a good 2 3 years. Made a lot of mistakes, first time entrepreneurship, but also learned a lot, a great deal in the way. And honestly,
Right.
what today when I look back, I'm glad I did it, because that got me into the world of HR. Right, TA
Mhm.
is a world of HR, and I realized that that is what I'm intuitively good at. Right, and honestly, it was. I wish there was like a very well thought out plan to do this, but it was just luck and serendipity that I did it. I
Mhm.
found out what I was good at, and I had the courage to go back in, because when I was making a choice post my business, when I closed my business, should I go back to the world of CA, or should I do the world of HR? Glad I had the courage to choose HR, because I realized that that is what I would be good at very long term. And
Mhm.
then Box happened again. That was very pure luck that I got an opportunity to go work at a company which was in HR tech.
Mhm.
I was employee number
Okay.
30 or 30 there, which when I left was a unicorn. Right? And like obviously, when you're employee 30 and you've grown within the company, I grew within the company, I grew in my career, learned all about the world of HR, and then I moved on to other companies, MPL, which
Mhm.
I headed the people tech, people analytics function there. Even though I knew nothing of what people tech is, what people analytics is, again,
Mhm.
I had the courage that I would be able to figure it out. And then at WorkIndia for the last 6.5 years, I've been leading the whole people space,
Mhm.
which is pretty much end to end everything
Okay.
to do with people. So that's been my journey.
Oh,
Definite, I would say,
uh,
a lot of luck happened, but I capitalized on
uh-huh.
them. And I had the courage to realize what it
Uh-huh.
is that I love doing, what it is that I was good at.
Correct.
I felt I was good at, not what I decided back then when I was 16 or 17, but when took an informed decision at the age of 25, 6, 7. And
Mhm.
yeah, uh, hopefully things have been doing well and things will keep doing well. So yeah, that's
Correct.
my Vivek.
That's really incredible, Ranaq. I mean, having having worked in finance and then went on to do entrepreneurship. It's not an easy journey, right? There's a lot of fear in people's mind when they're taking these kind of steps, and a lot of people are not able to take these journeys because they have a lot of fear in their mind, unknown fears in their mind. So it's incredible that when people see leaders like you who have gone through this journey, they feel themselves inspired to take these kind of steps and take risks in life. And I thoroughly believe that taking risks at the right time with the right approach, they can give you very big rewards in life. So it becomes very important to take those decisions. So Ranak, like, what was the reason that you went into CA post your education? Is it because of the city of Kolkata? Because I've lived in Kolkata. uh, there's a culture of getting into finance and CA. There are a lot of people. I have a lot of friends who are CAs. So is it because of that or something else?
No, yes, you're right. Like there's a lot of that, but see, I'm a Bengali, right? And Bengali community isn't very big on CAs. We are doctors and
Hmm.
engineers of the world, right? But honestly, it was again. I wish there was a great answer, but it was just pure laziness and lack of awareness of the world. um, which and
Uh-huh.
this is all the world that I knew. Now, this is back when there was no internet, right? There was nothing of that,
Hmm.
and all I knew was what I'd grown up.
Correct.
That my dad's a CA, a lot of people in my
Hmm.
family is a CA. That's what I'd heard of, right? But I did not have the self awareness to really realize that is that what I truly loved, right? Is that what I truly
Hmm.
would have enjoyed? I mean, I was very good in math, so I took that as a sort of key. I'm good in
Hmm.
math, so I'll enjoy CA, right? But that's not the right rationale, right? I was equally good in
Hmm.
computers. I was equally good in English. I was equally good in figuring people out, but I never really could connect those
Hmm.
dots. And I think it's impossible to do it when you're at an early age, right? This is one of the things that I talk about, and I've
Hmm.
had multiple discussions with leaders in this space, that we tell children, right? When you're 16, 17, you're a kid. What do
Hmm.
you know of the world? You're not
Correct.
even an adult, and you have to choose a
Hmm.
major that you're going to study for the rest of your life.
Hmm.
That's why
Right.
you have all of so many MBAs, right? And people do engineering and they realize, man, I don't like this. This sucks. How do I make a
Hmm.
transition? MBA is the way out, right?
Hmm.
Most 99% MBA is the way out to another field of studies, which you kind of realize when you're 27, 28. But
Right.
I think I'm one
Hmm.
of those anomalies, and I know a few more people, right, who've transitioned out to another career without doing an MBA, and that only happens when you're really, really clear, on what is it that you love, and honestly, a lot of luck also. Yeah. So to your question, Vivek, it was it was just my decision because of a lack of awareness.
Hmm.
If there was awareness, I'm pretty
Correct.
sure I wouldn't have chosen CA, right? And thankfully today, at
Correct.
least there's tools and a lot of internet and a lot of more peer groups that the kids have, people have these days to make those correct
Hmm.
decisions. But even if you
Correct.
don't
Correct.
at an early age, you know you can still choose to work on what you love and not spend the rest of your life on doing
Correct.
something that you don't enjoy, because you're never going to be great at what you don't enjoy doing. You're going to wake up every
Correct.
morning feeling a sense of dread. Yeah, मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? And that's not a optimal way to
Right.
live.
Right. Yeah, I understand. I mean, you touched upon a really important point about not having internet and not being able to have exposure basically of different fields. It used to be a major issue. Now with a lot of technology, a lot of information being available to the youngsters, I feel we are on the other side of the spectrum. Now there is like abundance of knowledge, abundance of information,
See,
abundance
Vivek,
of content. So
there's one
again, I mean,
problem.
we are on the other side of the spectrum wherein people are not able to like find out what is the right path or right approach, despite having lot of content, lot of guidance available. I feel I feel we are not able to like again I'm not sticking to one topic, but just something that came out of what you said. I feel we are not able to give the right path to the youngsters. I would say that there is no way to basically like connect people like you with young people who are trying to figure it out. So and I think you would have figured that out when you started this startup, this Refyar that you started. You that is where your major transition happened into people field, into HR field. So you would have also felt this situation. So do you have any thoughts about this particular situation in
Yeah.
our day and age?
Yeah, see, yes, you're right. There's abundance of information today, but um, the problem still exists that there is always an intent issue, right? And there's the democratization issue, right? The intent issue can never be solved. Back then, also, very honestly, if I had the intent, I'm pretty sure I could have spoken to multiple people, read a lot of
Mm,
books, documentaries. It's not like I was living in the Stone Ages, right? There's always access to
mm,
people. But at that time,
correct.
honestly, my intent issue was it was not there. I didn't really have that intent to really figure out what I wanted to do. I hadn't
Mm,
experienced all the things. That
mm,
problem still exists
correct.
today, right? You still, if you
Correct.
don't have the intent to figure out and you're serious about your career and life,
Mm,
and it's difficult at the age of
mm,
16, 17, but I've seen a lot of people very driven from a young age. You
correct.
give them all the information in the world. So there's this saying, right,
Mm,
which my other the previous company, my co-founder used to say that in HR we have L&D, right, which is learning and development. He
mm,
kept saying that
correct.
the best learning and
Mm,
development is free, right, and nobody uses it, and that
mm,
is YouTube. There's nothing in the world that
right.
is not available on YouTube if you really are
Right.
interested, right? So that's again an intent issue. But yes, today the democratization issue is not there because if you have the intent, then you will have access to a lot of things. You'll have access to podcasts like this. There's a lot of content out there.
Mm,
There's a lot of wisdom out there on the net, and plus you can
correct.
actually experience things now much easier, right? Look, let's say you want to experience a little bit of how the world of HR is, you
Mm,
can do this, or you can go
correct.
in and maybe just take up a small HR course, right? Nobody's telling you, these are free, right? Wharton and all these guys now, all big
Mm,
companies are, big
correct.
colleges are giving you courses for free, so you can experience
Correct.
all of those,
Mm,
which was not possible back then, and then make
mm,
an experienced decision. That's I think the
mm,
big change there. But again, I think
mm,
intent issue is a more difficult problem to solve, and that's where I guess upbringing and your parents and your peer
mm,
network matters a lot, right? You asked me that question, what did I
mm,
choose because of my peers? That happens to a lot of people. They choose something because everybody in their
mm,
peers are doing it, right? That's
correct. Correct.
not an optimal way, right? If you're a
Mm,
young, don't do what your
mm,
peers are doing. Don't go to the same
right.
college because your friends are going, because
Right.
eventually you will drift away from your friends, right? My best
Right.
friends are still school friends.
Mm,
Even a friendship that's meant to last, it'll last, but don't stake your
mm,
career on. Is what I would say. Yeah.
correct. 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 Yeah, right, right. I mean, rightly said. Ranak, next I would want to understand from you, like how Work India is changing the landscape of blue collar hiring, and how they've been managed to grow from zero to one, and what is currently like your approach to HR tech and people management in Work India. How, like, how's the hiring now? And basically, I would want to connect that ultimately to the situation of hiring these days in Indian startups as well as the established companies. What is the scenario, and how's the scenario changing in the current high inflation and high interest rate regime, wherein companies are finding it very tough to basically beat the interest rates, beat basically the market rates, the hurdle rate to growth. So that's why we are seeing the lack of growth in terms of multiple tech companies as well as a lot of startups. They're not being able to source capital to fund that growth. So how does that situation has impacted basically the hiring, and how do you see the situation changing going forward in 24?
Got it. So let's unpack all of them. There were multiple questions. So the first one, let me start with Work India. Right? So Work India is one of India's largest blue and grey collar recruitment platform. Very simply, Work
Hmm.
India connects employers to
Hmm.
job seekers. Right. The only difference
Correct.
being is the jobs there are mainly for the blue collared and grey collared. Right.
Hmm.
And
Right.
everyone is aware of India's demographic dividend. Right. This thing that we are so
Right.
proud of, and our government keeps talking of. We are where we
right,
are is because of a very young population, right? But there's a big downside and an upside to this. The upside is if the population is
mm,
employed, they're skilled, right? They're contributing to the
correct,
economy. That same population is not skilled. They're unskilled. They're not earning. They're going to drain from the population. Right? These are the people who are going to go in and do riots and create nuisance.
correct,
Right?
correct. So that
Ample,
becomes the demographic debt in that case.
yeah, absolutely. And we have ample evidences. It's happened multiple times in multiple countries. Many
Correct,
times in India and Bengal. Right? All of those uprisings happened
correct,
because of that.
mm,
Right, so that's where I
right,
think WorkIndia and there are other companies also who are playing a major part. Is where, see, technology is honestly a leverage, right? That's all technology is. It's leverage
right,
to a larger audience, right, in a very easy democratized way. And that's what
mm,
WorkIndia is, right? We A job, let's give you an example, right? A job in the outskirts of West Bengal, there's
mm,
no way, sorry, a job in Calcutta was not accessible to somebody sitting in the very remote parts of Bengal, right? Karnataka, if I
correct,
take, everybody wants to come and do a job in Bangalore, right? But you're sitting
correct,
in some remote area of Tumkur. There's no way you would have
right,
got to know that there is a job in Bangalore, but today you can.
mm,
Because of the
right,
app, you can, right? And
mm,
that's the connect that these platforms honestly are doing. That's what technology is
mm,
doing. It's that
correct,
simple, and in
mm,
doing so, we are providing jobs to millions and millions of blue and gray
mm,
collar and giving them a chance to come and work and have a better life, right? I've spoken to users
correct,
who've broken down in front of me because they're like, look, if Work India wasn't there, I wouldn't have got this job and I would not have had a roof over my head and my family wouldn't be here today,
mm,
right?
okay,
And for them, a job is like 20,000, 30,000 is enough, right? That's a lot,
mm,
in fact. 20,000 is enough for them. They were not able to get
right,
that, right? Because of this
mm,
application, this opening, swiping, calling, you get to call HRs and you get a job. The HR says, come tomorrow, we give
correct,
you an advance payment and you live because of that, right? So there's a lot of power
mm,
and greatness to
mm,
what we are doing, right?
mm,
That's about Work India, and there are other companies also who are doing this. But ultimately,
mm,
you're benefiting the nation and helping the
correct,
country move forward, right?
correct.
So coming to your next question, sorry, can you again repeat the next question? Oh, you spoke of
So,
hiring,
I mean, yeah. Next question is about hiring. Basically, want to understand the changing landscape of hiring these days in India, and we can collect the global situation also with this. So, like what? Again, I mean, what we've seen in the past that it has changed post COVID. We are seeing the effects of COVID on the hiring space now. The companies which were not in the healthy situation, people who were not in the healthy situation, they had to suffer during COVID times, and now we are seeing the same thing with companies which were not in the right health, their balance sheets were not right, their growth paths were not right, they are suffering the consequences of the COVID period now, which is showing in their hiring right now, hiring and people management and layoffs. So those are all outcomes of something which was not right to begin with during that time. And a lot of things have happened on a macroeconomic level also during these times, which has led to this situation. So, being an HR leader, like being part of, uh, being on the top of a company which is into recruitment space and being part of the HR space. So how do you see this landscape evolving, and what can youngsters do basically, like to tackle these situations, the challenges which might be there in future?
got it, Vivek. So I would break it into two very distinct phases, right? One is that COVID and post-COVID phase. So let me leave out
Mm,
COVID, right? Because that was an anomaly
mm,
where the world kind of
right,
stopped, right? All hiring stopped
correct,
because nobody knew what the hell they're going on, right?
correct,
But post
correct,
the COVID, there was a phase, there was a madness, right? Which is like your
right,
2021,
right,
mid
right,
2022, early 2022s. And then what we have segued into today, right? So late 2022, 2023, and it is going to continue, which is a very
correct,
steep plateau in where the economy has gone to, right? And this is globally as well
right,
as we're seeing the tailwinds in India. And so post COVID, I think what happened was there was a lot of madness in the sense there was pent up demand, right, which got fulfilled. Now to
mm,
meet up with that lagging demand, now people stayed
mm,
home, people saved money, right? People then wanted to, when the world
mm,
opened up, when the markets opened up, they wanted to spend. And to do that, you have to do a lot of,
correct,
up everything. You do up production, you do up softwares, you do up
mm,
everything. Because of that, ultimately, when you just want to randomly scale things up, you need ultimately people,
mm,
people are the
Correct.
backbone going to scale those things up, and particularly it's engineers, because today everything
Hmm.
is tech, right? And post COVID, tech basically got a 10x, 20x leverage, right? Everything just got faster when it comes to technology, when it comes to work from home, when it comes to ordering things online, right? All of this just scaled up massively. You needed people who would
Right.
help you scale that up, right? And that's where a demand supply mismatch
Hmm.
had happened, right? There was a massive amount of
Right.
demand and not enough supply, because in a year there are only so many new graduates or people. You can't just
Right.
manufacture people, right? You can
Correct.
artificially
Correct.
manufacture demand, but not supply. That's where we'd
Correct.
seen, and I'm sure you know, and all your listeners will know the madness that happened, right? Engineers who are like 2 3 years
Hmm.
experience getting Crow packages, like every
Right.
engineer
Right.
had 5 6 packages in their hand, right? And I'm nothing against
Right.
engineers or against them.
Right. Right. Right.
The reality of what happened, we as part of the
Correct.
HR function also, we had one of the toughest times back then,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Because we knew
I,
that
I,
we were
I, just to add to the point, I had a friend back in like 2022, end of 2021, who had like 12 offers in hand. Like he had offers from every kind of company, and then he chose
correct.
to go to one company. So all those other 11 were rejected, obviously.
So in coming from, like, from this world, it was very difficult for us to hire, right? Because we knew that if I send out an offer, there's no guarantee that the person will show up. In fact, we
Hmm.
had more
Correct.
than 50% people who don't show up, right? But
Hmm.
anyway, now that is
Hmm.
obviously not going to last, right? And all of that sort of
Hmm.
very, very steeply and dramatically tapered off. While the effects in India are
Hmm.
much lesser than what's happened in US, Europe, all because of the wars and all of that,
Hmm.
we are beginning to feel it now.
Correct.
Right? And when I say now, entire
Hmm.
2023, we've been feeling it. And it's mostly because there's no funding that's happening, right?
Hmm.
I missed saying another thing back then. A large part of the reason of this mad rush was also because of the investors, right? And I'm okay to call it
Hmm.
out. Investors are the guys who say,
Correct.
look, growth at all costs. That what does growth mean? Hire. They're like, hire at all costs. It's
Correct.
fine. Give somebody 2x
Hmm.
salary than what they deserve, right? And now the same people have come back
Correct.
and said hire, right? Which is kind of like a weird catch-22 situation. Now that the
Hmm.
investments have slowed down, companies have now realized that, hey, let's properly dhanda karte hain. Let's do business, and business is
Correct.
not growth at all
Hmm.
costs. It is getting to sustainable growth and sustainable profits, right? Now, moment that has
Hmm.
happened, it's taken a very, very big impact. The first and major impact that has taken is on people, because it's sad to say this, but the easiest cost cutting way that is available to you is to let go of people, right? You can't really let go of
Hmm.
your servers. You can't let go of your DevOps, right? You can't. You can maybe say
Hmm.
that I'll close an office, but that's much more difficult than just getting 20 people in the room and saying sorry, your jobs are no more there.
Correct.
So it's a hit that took in 2023. People got really, really cost conscious. They
Hmm.
sort of trimmed themselves down to the bone. In our world, there's
Hmm.
a saying called "trim the excess fat." It's a bad word, but it is
Hmm.
what it is. Like, people realize that you don't really need 10
Right.
people to do this. 5 people is enough to do this, right? And that's where all
Right.
of these layoffs and
Hmm.
everything you heard of that happened in 2023, and it's still happening now,
Hmm.
badly, right?
Hmm.
Now, on hiring, what has happened is the landscape has completely sort of done a 360, in the sense now
Hmm.
no one is going out and hiring en masse. No one is going out and
Hmm.
hiring like crazy, right? You are still hiring.
Hmm.
There's two types of hiring that's
Correct.
happening. One is obviously replacement hirings, which has come
Hmm.
down to a bare minimum because nobody's really leaving the companies, right? Attrition
Correct.
rates across
Correct.
the
Hmm.
country and across the globe has gone down because people don't get jobs. So
Hmm.
nobody really looking to
Correct.
switch, right? Only
Hmm.
a very small
Hmm.
percentage of people are looking to switch, and new
Correct.
positions coming up very, 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 very far and few, right? So
Hmm.
companies who were honestly at the mercy are now
Hmm.
holding that strong hand, which had always been the case. The anomaly
Hmm.
was the years
Hmm.
before that. Nobody
What?
had 10 offers in their hand, right? The best,
Right.
the
Right.
best people always had a couple of offers here and there, but there was always an integrity with people that I don't want to have so many offers, right? Candidates were like, okay, I want to go to this company,
Hmm.
I will only go to this company, right? So that's where
Hmm.
an integrity issue also was there, which sort of got eroded in this COVID times. Everybody just wanted to just mooch this situation, which has completely
Correct.
gone off, right? So my
Hmm.
advice to people who are listening, right, and I know people
Hmm.
not for the HR world, but people who are looking for jobs, looking to get hired,
Hmm.
is if you're still in that mindset of 2 years back,
Hmm.
21,
Correct.
20, maybe who are, especially
Hmm.
if you're, let's say, product or engineering who was hyped, you are in trouble. uh, please let
Mhm.
that mindset go, because that was temporary, right? It's never that
Correct, correct.
you want to get the best offer. Ideally look at
Mhm.
optimize for learning, optimize for growth, and also
Mhm.
look at what's a good salary, right? There's enough tools and enough
Right,
data
right.
for you to know what you're supposed to get, right? If you are getting what you're supposed to get, be okay with that and optimize for learning and growth, because it's very difficult to get into companies now, because companies are being very, very selective, right? For
Right,
every
right.
one company who got 3,000 positions for like a very junior role, which ideally the founder was like, I shouldn't have got more than 100 to 200. Now I've got 3,000 people applying to it.
Mhm.
Imagine that company can be super, super, super,
Mhm.
super selective, right? And that's what's happening across the board. So my advice would be just let
Mhm.
go of what happened, change your mindset completely. Don't get desperate and just go somewhere where you know the company is taking you for a ride, because there are companies who are doing that.
Mhm.
Right? They know that this position should be, let's say, 10 lakhs, but they are giving 8 lakhs. Right? Companies are doing that because they know people are desperate.
Correct, correct.
But
Yeah,
know what you're
that's a
worth.
very valid point. Yeah.
Yeah, know what you're worth, and then just optimize for learning, optimize for growth, which is what always hiring goes
Uh-huh.
for. Never about getting 8 and then another company jake saying I'll get 10, and then another company going and saying 14. That's
Correct,
never the right way to navigate your career, especially early on in your career.
correct, correct. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Very valid points that you have raised. Uh, so that was a period. I think employees felt a lot empowered, but I think that was employee empowerment gone wrong during that period.
So,
So
I'll
it was a
correct you
brief
there.
period wherein
Yeah, so I just one thing there. It wasn't employee empowerment; it was candidate empowerment, right?
correct,
Employees
correct. Yeah, yeah.
employees were little all over the place because they didn't know what to do. There was COVID, there was work from home, there was all of it, right? Once you're
Right.
in the system, uh, you're sort of falling into place, right? You're trying to figure things out. But candidates got, I won't say empowered, negatively empowered, right? Which is not right. Right?
Correct.
That's what happened. A lot of people just
Correct.
misutilized the
Yeah.
system, and some of them utilized it properly also. It was a
Right.
great time to get into the your dream companies. I know many people who got into dream companies, companies that they loved, right? And this was the time of craziness where companies got desperate, right? Like, where they were like, I need people.
Correct.
So people
Correct.
have utilized it properly, but there are many people who've misutilized it. And now I know many people who
Mm.
had 10 offers, let them go, joined the wrong company because they gave more pay, and this is the company who
Right.
fires them. Somebody who gives you exorbitant pay,
Correct.
that same company will cut you first. And now they don't really have a role and they're okay to go at
Correct.
half the cost. Right? It's a bad way to navigate your career, but it's fine. It'll correct. It's already course corrected now. There's a way to get out of it.
Mm. Correct. Right, 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 right. I totally agree. I mean, these are valid points that you have raised. People who are listening, they should understand that company who is paying you high might not be the correct fit for you in terms of work, in terms of culture. So it's very important to evaluate your next workplace, from multiple angles, not just look at the salary part itself. There are multiple things to, accompany your work. So everyone should evaluate like these kind of moves and not just follow the blind money matrix while selecting the company. So very valid point. Next, Ranak, I would want to understand from you, we've seen the hiring space, like we understand what is happening right now. In terms of the hiring tech specifically, like the different platforms, we've seen like multiple companies are entering in this field. There is companies like InstaHire, then Apna, like multiple companies are targeting multiple segments, but yeah, they're trying to solve this hiring problem. In addition to the existing platforms like Naukri, Monster Shine. So, what do you think is still broken? And plus, everyone is trying to integrate technology in it, like AI, ML, NLP. I've seen websites of some of the platforms wherein they have like written AI like multiple times in a single line. So yeah, that is happening. Like everyone is trying to integrate the next technology with hiring. But I would want to understand from you, like, what is still broken despite having all these technologies, all these tools, all these platforms. What according to you is still broken in terms of the hiring process? And how can the candidates or young graduates who are passing out of colleges, they can leverage these tools and platforms to basically like project themselves in the right way to the companies and get shortlisted, get selected, because that is also becoming a major problem, that a lot of people who have skills, who have done things in the career or in their projects, they are not getting shortlisted on these multiple platforms. So that is also a major problem which I have been seeing during my conversation with young people. So do you want, like, how would you address these kind of things, like?
Got it. Got it. So again, let's unpack those. The first one is you're right. Like everybody is coming to hiring. Hiring has been that one problem which is still unsolved, right? A problem which Google got into and got out of. But if you really
Hmm.
look at it from first principles, the biggest problem with hiring is still at the source, the funnel, which is matching the right candidates to the right jobs, right? Everything else
Hmm.
is like P2, right? The P0 is how do I
Right.
get the best people and get them to the right jobs, right? There are companies who are using AI, ML, and all of that, and you're right. 99% of the companies who write AI, ML does nothing of AI, ML, right? It's not possible.
Hmm.
But there are few companies who are doing that. Essentially, the problem here is a very deep problem. It's the why it doesn't work and it hasn't worked till now is purely because of the fact of what makes us human, right? Because a human's mind
Hmm.
works in a certain way, which a computer till now, a machine, even open AIs don't really understand, right? Because how AIs and MLs have been working
Hmm.
is based on certain trends of the past, right? Now the anomalies are so
Hmm.
high there, right? It's never a straight line to higher, right? Take my case, right? Ideally,
Hmm.
if you train a model, right, on what people head should be, my career journey is like the last thing that the model will understand, right? For me, the model will always throw me CA jobs, right? They look at
Hmm.
my past experience, they look at my education, they look at my experience, then they look at
Hmm.
the current roles that I've been taking and get thoroughly confused and give me a very mix and match. And it happens. I've tried that, by the way. Like it's totally confused. Uh, Now also with MBA, right? You are an engineer, and suddenly you do an MBA. What is the machine supposed to tell you? Like, what is the role that is a good fit for you? It's very difficult, and that's why the human mind really understands
Hmm.
because it can look at. It knows intuitively that okay, these are the kind of people who do well. If somebody's done an MBA in something, right, and they've taken up this next role, they would be a good fit, right? So
Hmm.
decoding a recruiter's mind into a platform is super difficult, right? Because it's what makes us human, and that's I think the fundamental reason today nobody has really been able to match it to a great level. But what they've done well is able to look at let's say a role which a developer role, right, as an example, right?
Hmm.
There's a very clear pattern, roles which have a very clear pattern on what you're supposed to do, no real anomalies,
Hmm.
very easy to fit in. And even for a let's say a recruiter, you're hiring for a recruiter, there's a very clear
Hmm.
pattern. Person should have been then this years of experience, salary, and all of that, and it can sort of throw out
Hmm.
that this is the right fit. Right? That's what it has been doing well
Hmm.
today, and a lot of companies who are hiring in bulk. So let me take that example of that company I said who had 3,000 jobs for a position. They will obviously run it through
Hmm.
the algorithm. The algorithm will, and it was a junior role, right? So it's very easy to pass through all the CVs, see if those keywords, those educations, those experiences match, and just remove the rest, right?
Hmm.
Because one in hiring, what happens is almost 80, 75 to 80% of the applications you get are completely a wrong fit. People are desperate, people just click the apply button,
Hmm.
right, without thinking much. So the machine can cut that 50, 70% which is not relevant pretty decently today. But post that, being
Hmm.
nuanced is not what a machine can do yet, right? There are tools who are trying. I know with
Hmm.
the with what OpenAI and what all these guys are doing, people will eventually be able to figure it out. They'll be able to train the models on so much data that they'll be able to
Hmm.
understand the anomalies and do the matching to a good 90, 85 to 90%. Even if that happens, then the job of our recruiters are really much easier, right? Because today they have to go through the biggest problem and the biggest time suck is having to look at so many CVs. Because to the human eye, looking at
Hmm.
a CV will at least take you 1 to 2 minutes, even if you're skimming. Imagine you get 1,000 CVs, like 2,000 minutes. Like, that's just not possible for somebody to skim through so
Hmm.
many, right? And that's where so many tools are coming in because there's a massive ROI, right? If a tool comes and says that, hey, you don't need to skim through CVs, I'll give you 90% accurate, I would be okay to pay for it. I would be okay to pay
Hmm.
$1 recruiter's salary, right? It's about 7, 8, 10 lakhs,
Mm.
right, per annum. Right? So that's why there's such a large market, and you'll find so many tools coming in. But at the same time, execution is very, very difficult because you're talking of decoding the human mind,
Mm.
right? Which still today has not yet happened, right? That's I think the first question. What was the next question? Oh, you asked about how people,
So
youngsters.
next, yeah, how can basically candidates use these platforms, these tools better to basically project themselves in front of the employer so that they get shortlisted, they get better chances of converting, these roles.
Got it. Got it. And that's a very good question, Vivek. So, as somebody who's looking out for a job, right, you have to stay in touch with what the market is doing. And today, fortunately,
Mm.
unfortunately, everybody is using an ATS. Right? There'll be very few companies who's not using some form of technology and some form of this obscure algorithm that I said. Right, and call it
Mm.
obscure. It's a very basic algorithm. Generally, and I'll just tell you how these algorithms work. Is there's certain things called a keyword, right? Which can be, let's say, software developer
Mm.
or JavaScript developer or I don't know, Ruby on Rails developer. These are keywords that define what you're doing, right? For me,
Mm.
CHRO, HR head, these are
Mm.
keywords that you can tag. That's super important, right? Second is what is very intuitive because that's your education, years of experience, your
Mm.
past working, right? So what the algorithm does is takes all of this. It takes those keywords. It takes
Mm.
your years of
Mm.
experience. It looks at the past companies you worked at. It looks at your background of education. And when I say education, back end may you have like a huge database of, let's call it, IITs, IIMs, CA, so on and so forth. These are also clubbed as keywords. Now, when somebody is filling in a job, right, a recruiter, what they do is they'll put in,
Mm.
these are the keywords that's needed. These are the education colleges that's needed. This is the years of experience that
Mm.
needed. And good to have, that person should have worked in, let's say, A, B, C, D company, but that's very secondary. Now, how is the
Correct.
system, how is the
Mm.
machine working? All the machine can work on is the CV that you've provided. Now, one, if all this information is not on your CV, right? If you've not written keywords, and keywords, let's say, constitute 33% weightage of the algorithm, then you're basically getting a zero on that 33%, and somebody
Mm.
else would not have gone to IIT. Let's for an example, let's say IIT is what people were looking
Mm.
for. You haven't put in a keyword. The
Mm.
algorithm will give you a score of, let's say,
Mm.
50 versus somebody who's not from an IIT but have written all the
Mm.
keywords. The algorithm will give you a score of 60 and you will be
Mm.
stacked right on top, right? So it's very important, and that's what I tell young people, and people mostly have figured it out these days. That always start
Mm.
your CV with those keywords, right? People write that paragraph about
Mm.
me. Nobody reads that.
Right.
I'm being
Right.
honest. The only
Mm.
person, only one who reads it is the algorithm. So put in all those keywords there. That takes care of your keywords, and then be very clear in writing how much years of experience you have, because the machine is passing through your CV, right, and it will pick up what is the years of experience you've put, and also mention your colleges properly, right? So IITB
Mm.
might be, may not be a better way would be IIT Bombay, let's say, or IIM Bangalore instead of calling it IIMB, right? Or maybe mention
Mm.
both. Make it as parse friendly as possible, and so basically you're maximizing your surface area of luck when you make it as technology proof
Mm.
uh, as possible, because know that
Mm.
on the other side there's somebody who's clicking a button, machine is reading all these CVs and
Mm.
automatically stack ranking, let's say out of 500,
Right.
the first page will have the top 10, then the top 10, and trust me, if we all go top wise, we don't go to the last and start, we start from the first 10, right? And it's very rarely it is that
Mm.
I applied first, so I come on top. Most of these ATSs will do their own passing.
Mm.
First of all, it will remove
Right.
irrelevancies, but even the relevant ones,
Mm.
they will stack rank on top. So just be careful about these things.
Mm.
Read up on how, what are the keywords, how to make your CVs. If you Google it, you will get it, and just follow it,
Correct.
because
Mm.
it's increasing your chances of getting the eyeballs of the recruiter.
Mm.
Yeah.
Correct.
And also I think this is not to do with technology per se or ATSs per se, but I think a great way to really, if you're looking for a job, is to sort of network, right? Network is that tried and
Mm.
tested thing that's been there. Now you have LinkedIn, right? And No matter how much people now make fun of LinkedIn and the content on LinkedIn, it is a great way to engage, right? So a great way would be,
Mhm.
if you know that there is a job in X company, uh, going to the recruiter
Mhm.
is difficult, because understand that if you DM the recruiter gets, trust me,
Mhm.
recruiters get like 50 to
Yeah,
60 DMs every single day. They are not
right.
that they're human beings, they just don't even open their messages, right?
They're like the hot girls on Insta, on LinkedIn. That is their status.
Yeah, like they're just there, they don't open it because they're humans, right? They cannot. But
Correct.
who
Yeah.
will open it, understand that the recruiter is not hiring, it's the hiring manager who's
Mhm.
hiring, right? If I have
Correct.
somebody from the team, I'm just going to take the
Mhm.
help of the recruiter, right? The ultimate, while it might be the recruiter's KRA, but the pants on
Correct.
fire is the hiring manager. And the best way to do it is go find who the hiring manager is. I can't tell you how to do that. You'll
Mhm.
have to do homework, right?
Mhm.
If there's a job in finance in a company, go and look at who's the head of
Mhm.
finance and then DM that person.
Right.
Saying that, hey, I am
Right.
so and so, and I'm interested in this. Just try to engage and have a conversation with that person. That's the best
Mhm.
way to actually skip through skip through the algorithm, skip through the recruiter's eyeballs, and go directly to the source, right? But then there's a way to
Mhm.
do it. Don't just DM and say hi, sir. I'm not making fun of people, okay? But there's a way to DM and get their attention, right? Be very pointed. Talk about who you are, what you've done, why that person should even consider you, right?
Correct.
And then just DM that person and then give the CV later on. Maybe just call that person for some advice or a chat, right? And then say that, hey, I saw that there's a role in the company. Can you refer me, right? And I'm saying this from real life experience. I've hired multiple people at MPL. In fact, two people from my team at MPL had got hired that way. They reached out and say, hey, let's talk. I'm always open to talking. And then it was good
Mhm.
conversation. They engaged
Correct.
with my posts, and then they said that, hey, there is an opening, I'm really interested. And so I was like, sure, I already know you, I've had a great conversation with you, I know you're good enough to do this. And then I
Right.
put this in through the process. They never even applied, right? So this remains the best way of hiring, if done correctly. If done
Mhm.
incorrectly, then you're basically closing the doors. If you call somebody and just write generic rubbish, right, that manager is
Mhm.
never going to ever engage with you again.
Correct. 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 That's a very nice and elaborate answer, I would say. It's a manual for people who are trying to get jobs on these various portals. So there is a process and there is a way so that you can get shortlisted for the things that you have done in the past, and then then basically it's about building relationship. If you're talking about LinkedIn as a platform, it's about building relationship with your potential recruiters and then trying to project yourself in the correct manner so that they can have attention on you, because that is something which is very lacking these days. I mean, attention from the recruiter community. I mean, they have so many applications, they have so many people approaching them. So it's very important to stand out in terms of building your brand, showcasing your brand to the recruiters, and showcasing what you have done in the past in the correct manner. So it's an important skill that needs to be learned. So every platform has its own way to be approached in terms of getting shortlisted, getting jobs. So it's very important for people to learn these things. Thanks a lot, Ranak. Last, Ranak, I would want to understand from you about HR field. People who are youngsters who are entering this field, how rewarding it is, how to navigate in this field, and what is the mantra for success in HR field. And you can also talk about the integration of technology in HR in HR these days. Uh, how people can learn about those kind of skills and build a profile which can help boost their chances of growth in HR field.
Got it. So again, let me just deep dive a little into this, right? Because this is a question that a lot of people come up with, and unfortunately, everybody has a very skewed understanding of what the world of HR is, right? It's not just hiring people,
Mhm.
right? Or firing people.
Correct.
There's a lot that goes on, right? So
Mhm.
effectively, there are 4 to 5 pillars, if I can call it, which are those functions within HR, right? The one that we've spoken about today, that's hiring, right? That's a
Mhm.
monster in itself. It's where you bring the right people into the company. And now once they're into the
Mhm.
company, um, every
Yeah.
employee needs, like, let's say they have to check their PAN, they have to get their Aadhaar, they should know how to do time and attendance. Yeah, they should know those basic things. Where are my payslips? Where are my policies? What are my policies? Right, right.
Mhm.
So there's a whole function that's dedicated to that, which is called people ops, right? People operations, where you
Mm.
just ensure that that employee who's in the system is not lost and running around like a headless chicken. Right? They know exactly what to do, right? Then there's the whole part of the salaries, that I should get my pay on time, right? Every 30th,
Mm.
31st of first, I should get my salary. Now, there's a whole team. In fact, there is a sub team within that team. There's a team who makes sure that the money hits your bank account. They do the whole
Mm.
calculations, number of days you
Correct.
work, number of days you've been on leave, how much money you should get. Now, there's a team who sits on top of that in payroll who decides how much you should get, right? Which is that
Mm.
important element there, that for this job at this level of experience, this is what you should get, right? So there's a whole
Correct.
team at the pay, and then there's another team which is taking growing you within the company, right? So once you join a company, you're going to stay there. The average
Right.
tenure is, I think, two odd years, right? You obviously don't
Mm.
want to be at the same position, right? You want to grow,
Correct.
right? You want to get better.
Mm.
So that's where the learning and development and the people development team comes in. This team is
Mm.
responsible for making sure that these employees who are in the system utilize,
Mm.
get the best out of their potential, right? And if there is something lacking, they're supposed to
Mm.
train them at regular frequency to make sure that they get better and better and better, right? Because if an employee gets better, they feel better and the company also wins, right? It's a win-win. So that's a people
Mm.
development, right? There's a lot of science, a lot of tech also to this. And then
Mm.
there is a team who's taking care of you, right? And I say care in a very broad sense is, let's say, a large company which is spread all over the globe, right? Now
Right.
nobody centrally, it's impossible to do this from a central position, right? That's where the HR BPs come in, which is what is
Right.
so much in the market, which are called the HR business partners. What they do is they partner with the businesses and act as the mini HR heads there. Their job is to
Correct.
just ensure that you are taken care of from an all-around perspective, right? They are those point of contacts
Mm.
when anything goes wrong. They are those point of contacts when you want to grow, right? Because they will talk to them and then go in turn and talk with the people development team, right?
Mm.
So
Right.
that's the HR PPs who are, which is like a hot job in the market now, because mostly
Mm.
these are the MBAs who are doing it, because you need an experience of everything. You need to know all these functions to really function as an HRBP, right?
Correct.
And
Mm.
then the thing which is overlying all of this, right? It's sitting on top of the entire HR function, is the people technology, and now
Mm.
the people analytics function, right? The
Correct.
technology is like an all encompassing, right? Now all of this need a tech tool to run. Nobody does this without tech,
Mm.
right? Gone are those days that people are doing things on Excel. It's always an HRMS today, right? Even moment you cross 40, 50, people take an HRMS tool. So there's a
Mm.
technology there which runs on top of this. And then what does technology do? It helps you run the process, but it's also
Mm.
giving you a lot of data. Where the
Right.
analytics and what I was doing at MPL, I'm doing here also, is that we gather the data and analyze it, right? And trying to find
Mm.
what's the insights that coming out of it. So for example, let's say you do an ENPS survey, which is an
Mm.
employee happiness survey. Now the
Correct.
survey will give you data, which is what the analytics team will now analyze, right? And say, okay, this is the team which
Mm.
is happy, not happy, this person might leave, so on, so on, so on, and so forth.
Mm.
Right?
Correct.
This is the upcoming sort of layer now, technology and analytics, which is really hot because this function wasn't there before. There was
Mm.
no people analytics function. Like, there are a handful of people analytics professional in the world today, right?
Correct.
So my
Mm.
advice to people from the HR function is, take a step back and actually understand what this function is, because as and when this function is maturing, right, it's getting very nuanced.
Mm.
It's not one person doing everything, right? When you're a very small company,
Mm.
40, 50 people, one or two people can manage, but moment you
Mm.
cross 50, 70, moment you cross 100, uh,
Right.
100, moment you've crossed 50, one person cannot do it, right? You need a specialist who's going to do the performance managements and L&Ds. You need a
Right.
specialist who's going to run payroll. You need a
Mm.
specialist who's going to run the technology and the analytics platform, right? So
Right.
understand all of these, what are the various pillars within the people function, and then
Mm.
somehow figure out. I think a great way that I've told, like, at least the youngsters in my team is, taste all of it when
Mm.
you do. There's no way
Mm.
to realize or intuitively know what you're good at, right? There's no way you'll
Correct.
really know that, oh, I'm great at payroll, till you
Mm.
actually do it, right? So a good way would
Mm.
be in the first 4 5 years of your career, try to
Correct.
hopefully join a company which is giving you these options. And trust me, today most companies do that, right? If a fresh
Mm.
graduate comes in and says, I want to do, I'll start in people operations because that's the most manual. The next day I want to do payroll. Next year I want to do compensation. After that I want to do people development, right? So
Hmm.
understand all of this for the first 5 6 years of your career. Don't
Hmm.
chase money. I'm not saying do what Narayan Murthy said, work 70 hours a day, right? That's
Hmm.
different.
Correct.
70 hours a week. But optimize for learning in the first few years of your career, and then really sit down and understand that what is it that I loved out of this. And
Hmm.
when you sit and think and ask yourself that out of this, which is the one that came effortlessly to me, like I enjoy doing it. Trust me, that's the
Hmm.
one that you'll know intuitively that this is the one that I really love, and try to
Hmm.
figure out a way to spend the rest of your life doing that.
Hmm.
The rest of your
Hmm.
life long term, but spend a lot of time doing that because you'll naturally be good at it and you'll grow in your career, right? But that's only possible is if you've tasted all of these functions.
Hmm.
It's difficult doing that because most companies don't let you do that. But then
Correct.
if you want to do it, you can figure out a way to do it. So my advice would be that HR is
Hmm.
not the HR of old anymore, where it's just a back office function now. Right? We are in the
Correct.
front.
Hmm.
This function
Correct.
is the biggest cost centers of every companies are the people team, right? People, right? And leaders have now understood that I need to get the best out of my people, my talent.
Hmm.
I have to keep my talent and get the best out of them. So HR function has become very, very important and critical now. And we as HR
Hmm.
professionals need to also understand that and step up, right? We can't be teams who are saying, I don't like numbers, I don't like maths, right? I don't understand technology. It's just not
Hmm.
going to work. You have to understand technology, right? You have to understand how tech works. You also have to have a flair for math, because now it's all about
Hmm.
maths. Right? What is the attrition rate? What is the churn ratio? What is the people cost? Right? All these things are being
Right.
discussed. So you as a professional have to be at par with all of these. Um, and yeah,
Hmm.
figure out what is it out of this whole function that you really enjoy. Um,
Hmm.
do it first 5 years, learn the next 4 5 years, really double down on what you really enjoyed, and then after that, you
Hmm.
can become a leader. Like 10 12 years ke baad, you can become a leader in the function, provided you have tasted all of these things. Yeah, so that's my advice.
Great, great, great. I think it's a really good advice. And you touched upon a very important point to basically get a taste of a lot of things in that particular domain. The multiple pillars that you mentioned, it's very important to understand what you love doing, because it could be possible that you might be working in people operations, but you might enjoy working as an HR VP. Working directly with the business teams. So that is something which is important for employees to understand, but at the same time it's very important for organizations to also understand that they can make their teams happy, their employees happy, if they offer them uh, multiple areas to work in. So then they can find their own niches, and then they can even contribute more if they are given that kind of opportunities. But again, not a lot of organization, not a lot of leaders do that. So it's very commendable that you have that sort of thought process, and you're trying to do it with your team, and Work India is trying to do that with their employees. So it's a commendable thing, and I think a lot of other companies should also follow these footsteps. So great, great. Uh, so Thanks a lot, Ranak. I think we have covered most of the topics. Anything at the end that you would want to touch upon in terms of giving advice to young people who are just trying to figure it out, just starting their careers? Just a 2 or 3 line advice that they can follow. Basically a guru mantra that they can follow in order to grow and achieve their desired goals, their targets in life.
Yeah, so I'll just paraphrase something that I heard in a recent podcast, like one leader talking. Like, break your career into three
Hmm.
parts, right? The first part is the learning phase. That's the first 10 years of your life, right? You might think 10 years is a long time,
Hmm.
but really not, right? If you start your career at 24, 25, 8 to 10 years is not that long because you're going to work for the next 40 years of your
Hmm.
life. So first 10 years is
Hmm.
very crucial, very important to just learn and taste, right? So there's this
Hmm.
book of
Hmm.
Jeffrey Epstein called Range, which talks about having a T-shaped career, which is experiencing a lot of things but getting depth in one, right? You will never be able to do that if the
Hmm.
first 10 years don't get to taste a lot of things and try your hand at multiple things till you
mm,
figure out what is it that you're naturally good at. And after that, the next 5 6 years of your life is where you double down, right, on what is it that you're
mm,
naturally good at and really have incremental outcomes from it. And post that is where
mm,
the leadership stage takes over, right? The
mm,
reason why a lot of
right.
people don't achieve leadership at an early stage, and 15 years to get 12 to 15 years to get to leadership is relatively a small period of time, right?
Mm,
Historically people have
correct.
been doing it much longer time, is because you haven't
Mm,
experienced things, and as a leader you have to know everything,
mm,
right? Otherwise you'll never really
mm,
be a, so break it into three parts. First part, just focus on the first few years of your life, 7 8 10 years of your life. Just focus on learning, focus on experiencing a lot of things. Do not optimize for
correct.
money, because people think that, oh, I'll take the best pay, versus which is where I'm
Mm,
learning. Learning is the highest. Long term, it's always detrimental, because understand one thing: money can
mm,
compound, learning compounds, and money can exponentially grow, right? After
mm,
15 years of your life, right? For me, it
correct.
has also happened. It has exponentially grown from what it was when I was on the learning phase. And people
Mm,
don't realize that, like, because companies, when they're hiring a
mm,
leader, they cannot give you a small base pay. Right? They will 2x,
mm,
3x your salaries, because they know you're worthy of being a leader,
correct.
right? So don't
Mm,
think of money initially. Yes, money is important. Don't
mm,
get under, but don't also get overpaid. In today's market, don't get overpaid, because
correct.
things go south, you're the first one who's going to lose their job, right? Get
Right.
paid what you should get, right?
Mm,
Optimize for learning, and then double down, really focus on what you're really good at, right? And just get a lot of green shoots in your career, and then use these, let's say 12 13, whatever, that depends for different people, what these years of
mm,
experience taught you, and then jump into a leadership role. Once you're in the leadership role, then it's a whole different ball game, right? I don't want to get into that, because
mm,
I also haven't
mm,
navigated that part of my career yet.
correct.
But
Correct.
getting here, I think this is the recipe for it. It's not just me saying I've done it, but a lot of people have also said it, right? And if it can be followed, um, yes, there is a certain amount of importance luck plays in your life,
Uh-huh.
God plays in your life, I guess. Now those things are out of our control, but
Right.
what I see is very much in our control, and if we do that, I'm sure like we'll see a lot of green shoots and
Mm,
success. Yeah, at least I have found it, and I know a few people who've done that, and they've also found this.
correct. 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 All right. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Ranak. I think this was really a valuable session, even for me, and I believe it will be very valuable for the audience also. So great talking to you. It was really nice that you could take some time out from your schedule. I know it's festive season. Diwali is going on. So thanks a lot for taking out time actually. So wish you and your family a very happy Diwali. And again, I would like to thank you for the conversation that we had. Great.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Vivek. Enjoyed the conversation, and happy Diwali to you and your
Yeah,
family and your loved ones too.
yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Ranak. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Wish
you.
to catch up with you when I'm in Bangalore. So uh, let's probably connect sometime later
Sure,
this
sure.
month. Next. Yeah.
We
Thank
should do
you.
that. Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye. Take care. Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.